Finish what you start. Your brain is wired to chase closure. Every time you finish something, it can be anything, even something as small as washing the last dish, sending the email, completing a workout, you trigger a chemical reward, dopamine, that makes you feel good and urges your brain to do it again. That small burst is how momentum is built in your life. Most people never reach it because they quit halfway, chasing easier pleasures that deliver quick hits of dopamine. The brain learns that avoidance feels safer than completion, and the cycle repeats. To your brain, it can do easier work but still receive dopamine, so why would it even bother doing the harder but more beneficial task? If you change your mindset and you push through and close the loop, you're teaching yourself that effort pays off more than escape. Finishing becomes its own addiction. It doesn't have to be huge, just something with a clear end. Read 10 pages of a book or complete that last rep. Every small win rewires the system in your brain. Over time, your brain stops craving the comfort of quitting and starts craving the satisfaction of being done. I bet a lot of you watching won't even make it to the end of this video. A decent amount of people are already gone. This just proves how a complete video with constant moving and a voiceover isn't enough stimulation for your brain to want to continue watching. Take boring breaks. Most people sabotage their discipline in the moments they call rest. They work for an hour on a mildly stimulating and mildly rewarding task, but it's easy. But then they take a break and flood their brain with hyperstimulation, scrolling at 100 miles per hour, gaming, eating an extremely unhealthy meal. They do all of these things and then expect to return to focus as if nothing happened. Your brain has now got a new baseline for dopamine. Remember, dopamine is the chemical that causes motivation. So now, your brain will only be motivated to do things that release as much dopamine as scrolling, gaming, or eating junk food. Good luck finding any hard work that fits in that category. The next task can't compete with the thrill you just gave yourself, so you start to avoid it. The fix isn't removing breaks. You want to change how you spend them. Let your rest be boring. Stretch, walk, stare at the ceiling, make tea. Give your mind space to breathe instead of drowning in noise. When your downtime stops spiking your senses, returning to effort feels natural again. You may even be motivated to get back to work. Do one thing at a time. Your brain isn't built for multitasking. Every time you switch tasks, checking a message mid-set, glancing at a notification, flipping between tabs, you force your mind to restart the focus process from zero. That restart costs time, but more importantly, it kills momentum. This relates back to the point, finish what you start, I talked about first. Multitasking feels productive because your hands are busy, but cognitively, it's not working. Your attention is split, and being able to use your brain in depth becomes impossible. The fix is very simple, but it's not easy. When you eat, eat. You don't need to have a Sidemen Among Us video playing before every meal. When you work, focus on the task at hand and check your phone after. Try this. Try going to the toilet without taking your phone. Don't try to merge everything into one endless stream of half focus. Single tasking rebuilds the mental pathways that let you drop into flow, that rare zone where time disappears and effort feels easy. That is the optimal state for working on hard things and cannot be achieved when you're doom scrolling while finishing your assignment. The 2-minute rule. Starting something is always the hardest and most intimidating part. Your brain exaggerates how painful a task will be, so it talks you into waiting for motivation, forcing you to procrastinate. The fix to this is super simple. Lower the entry cost. Tell yourself you'll just do it for 2 minutes. You can write 1 sentence, stretch for 1 song, vacuum 1 room. That tiny action tricks your brain into crossing the line between thinking and doing. Once you've started something, the resistance to that task disappears and momentum takes over. Most of the time, you'll end up going longer without even noticing. You don't need to commit to the whole thing, just the first step. This isn't about finishing fast or only doing 2 minutes of work. It's about proving to your brain that work isn't dangerous. Once you start, it's really easy to keep going. Cut cheap dopamine. I know most of you watching won't cut out all cheap dopamine, so I've got something in the next point if that is you. But if you are willing to cut out all forms of cheap dopamine, your brain will rewire very quickly, and then you will nearly instantly crave hard work. Think about it logically. You remove any and all things that give you cheap dopamine. Things like your phone, video games, YouTube, Netflix, junk food, a vape, or any sort of nicotine. then the only way your brain can possibly get dopamine is through doing something hard, which is why you clicked on this video in the first place. But for most people, they don't want to completely get rid of all of those things. So here's something else you can do. Dopamine loading. Every day you wake up, your dopamine levels have generally reset pretty well. The same goes for your dopamine baseline. This can be used to your advantage, but most people use it to their disadvantage. The second they wake up, they hop straight onto TikTok, doom scrolling in bed, which, as you know by now, is a massive dopamine spike. But they then get up and try to go to work, or study, or do some sort of difficult task, which won't release anywhere near as much dopamine, because your brain wants to keep increasing the levels it's releasing, and the hard, boring work just doesn't release the same amount. This makes it very difficult to actually get the work done. You will feel bored, annoyed, and won't be able to hold your focus for very long at all. Here's how you can actually use it to your advantage. When you wake up in the morning, you need to focus on doing the things you need to do, rather than things that release a lot of dopamine. Wake up, have a shower, and get straight into work, studying, whatever it is that you have to do. As the day goes on, maintain this state of low dopamine, which actually feels high, until you reach the end of your day when you're not going to be trying to do any more low dopamine tasks. Once you reach the end of your work, then you can start loading in all of the high dopamine, low effort tasks, like doom scrolling and junk food. If that was difficult to understand, you want to do the tasks in your day starting from low dopamine releasing tasks and moving up into high dopamine releasing tasks. That way your baseline will not drop throughout the entire day. Adopting a growth mindset. Most people work hard for some outcome that comes once they finish the hard work. Maybe it's money or it's a social outcome, which is great and perfectly fine. But working hard at something for only the sake of a reward that comes after can make the work a lot more challenging, as well as deter you from wanting to work hard again in the future. Switching your view to a growth mindset, which is putting yourself in the mindset of striving to be better, rewarding the hard work and effort you put in along the way rather than just the final outcome. You see the hard work as something that is great, even though it may feel bad in the moment. Being able to do this simple mindset switch allows your brain to release dopamine when you're experiencing a challenge or some sort of friction. But this is actually impossible when you are only focused on the goal or the reward that comes at the end of all of your hard work. When you are able to attach pain, hardship, and friction to an internal reward system, even if it's just being proud of yourself, you will start to be able to access the dopamine release during the actual hard work, not just after you achieve the reward. This not only makes the hard work more enjoyable, you actually make it less painful. You make yourself more efficient at the task, and you make yourself more likely to engage in that activity again next time around. So when you're doing something hard, be happy that it is hard, and keep going. Hard work is where you find the biggest rewards. Dopamine stacking. Most people don't realize how much they overload their brain's reward system. Some people may think smashing pre-workout, pumping loud music, and doing some hard exercise is amazing for you. And while it may be good for your workout and body, this is called dopamine stacking, where you stack multiple dopamine-releasing activities on top of each other. While it may help during the exact task, afterwards you will have a dip in your dopamine baseline. Not only that, if you ever try to work out without the music and pre-workout, you will be much less inclined to actually do the hard work, because your brain won't have that extra dopamine release. Now this can be a good thing. You can stack a task that releases dopamine at the same time you start a hard task you don't want to do, tricking your brain into releasing dopamine and making you motivated to do work you might not have previously wanted to do. Dopamine stacking can get dangerous when people do things like watch TV, scroll on their phone, and eat junk food all at the same time, then wonder why they can't focus on a less stimulating task. If that's you, avoid it if you want any chance at actually being able to do hard work. Deliberately do hard things. Your brain only adapts when it's challenged. Every time you avoid something difficult, not having a cold shower, not doing a tough workout, avoiding an uncomfortable conversation, you teach your brain that comfort equals safety and discomfort equals danger. But the nervous system learns from exposure, not avoidance. When you deliberately do something hard, you trigger a small stress response in your body. Your heart rate rises, adrenaline spikes, but after you complete it, your body releases dopamine and serotonin as a reward for overcoming that stress. Over time, your brain begins to associate effort with relief. That's the entire point of discipline training, to make discomfort familiar. You don't need to go extreme and be the most disciplined person in the world. You just need to be consistent. Lift heavier than you want to a couple times a week. Speak when you think you should stay quiet. Wake up when it's the last thing in the world you want to do. Every deliberate hardship tells your brain the same thing. We can handle this. And eventually, it stops resisting hard work, and it actually chases it. Gamify hard work. This one might not work for everyone, but turning hard work into a video game is a great way to make the hard work easier. Your brain loves games because games make effort visible. You can see progress, track points, and get rewarded for action, not just outcomes. You can see how this one links to the growth mindset section. Hard work often feels endless and abstract, so your brain doesn't know when to celebrate. You can fix that by turning your work into a system that feeds the same reward loops games use. Keep a score for how many little tasks you can do in a set amount of time. Then reward yourself if you hit a new record, or just race the clock. Assign yourself levels and missions instead of vague goals like be productive. Each small win releases a burst of motivation, reminding your brain that progress feels good. The trick is to make the challenge hard enough to stay interesting, but make it achievable enough to stay rewarding. If you manage to gamify every area of your life where you want to improve, you will improve crazy fast. Work with other people. Hard work is contagious. Your brain mirrors the behavior of whoever it's around. This is a built-in system called social mirroring. If you spend time with people who focus deeply, delay comfort, and take pride in effort, your nervous system copies that rhythm without you realizing it. The opposite is true too. When you spend time around constant distraction and your brain normalizes avoidance, you will find it much harder to get stuff done. Working alongside others creates shared pressure, shared standards, and subtle accountability. There is the natural human desire where people don't want to look or feel lazy. If you sit around with 3 hardworking friends and you are doom scrolling while eating chips, you will feel lazy, which your body will naturally use as motivation to do the hard work. Even silent co-working changes your output, because your brain interprets other people's focus as a cue to do the same. Humans evolved to perform best in groups, where effort meant survival. Surround yourself with people who treat discipline the same way, and your brain will naturally start seeing hard work as being a part of a group and surviving. Dopamine detox. This buzzword has been spread across all social media in the past few years, and most people probably don't actually know what it actually does. The world is built so that you can have a million forms of stimulation at your fingertips. A dopamine detox is a short reset for your baseline of stimulation and dopamine. It allows you to come back down from the high of the modern world's constant stimulation and lets you think more clearly about what you want and how to get it. You're essentially removing all artificial dopamine sources, like junk food, caffeine, scrolling, video games, and so on, so that your brain starts generating dopamine and motivation for natural sources, like working on something hard, making progress, and small day-to-day activities. The first few days will be excruciating. Your brain will be constantly searching for a quick hit of dopamine, but once you manage to withhold for a few days, something clicks. Silence starts to feel nice instead of your brain panicking for stimulation. Your focus returns, and you start appreciating small things, like simple exercise. Essentially, in a dopamine detox, you reset your baseline for dopamine and rewire what your brain rewards you for, changing it from instant gratification sources of dopamine to meaningful sources that will actually improve your life. The one thing you cannot do is go straight back to all the artificial sources for dopamine once you finish a dopamine detox. That is the time for working on hard things. If there is only one thing that you learn from this video, let it be this. If you are trying to do hard things, make sure you do the hard things before the easy, or you're going to make the hard thing even harder. Oh, and YouTube thinks that you will like this video here, so just watch it.